over. Green morning, green afternoon, and green evening, wherever you are in different countries, in different continents, in different time zones, in different conditions, in different wellness and health arena. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we extend a very hearty welcome to each one of you. Kindly stay fine, stay fit, enjoy your day, enjoy your afternoon, enjoy your evening, wherever you are. But it's very important, please take care of your health. We are a little worried that the cases are increasing now, and one of the highest cases we got yesterday, and some of the states are having challenges. So we would like to go very carefully on that. Today is the 793rd webinar, Sunday, 28th of March. And it's a proud privilege that this old man sitting before you, this is the seventh webinar on Sunday since morning at 9 a.m. We had a webinar at 9 o'clock, then we had at 12:30, then we had at 3 o'clock, then we had at 4 o'clock, then we had at 5 o'clock, then we had at 6:30, and now 8 p.m. This is the most important webinar because our brothers and sisters across the world, they all join from different countries to share their vision. Now, this evening, this morning, this afternoon, when I talk about United States this early morning, and I'm proud to have a very distinguished guest and a speaker this morning with us, Madam Akshya Srinivasanji. She is the clinical assistant professor, marketing at the Maya Business School, Texas, A&M University, United States. With the folding hands, we extend her a very warm welcome this morning. Like every week, we have got Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajanji, Professor of Marketing, Lamar University from Texas. He is joining us. Today's subject is very interesting, very captivating. Intoxicating to nahi bolunga, but yes, stimulating. Because the moment you say intoxicating in Punjab, it's misunderstood. And everybody feels Patiala is shaking. So when you talk about the new education policy 2020, building global excellence in Indian education ecosystem. How do we build global excellence in Indian education ecosystem, impact of globalization, and then of course, we'll talk about Indian education ecosystem. Wishing you all a wonderful, happy Holi. May God paint the canvas of your health and wellness with beautiful colors of Holi. But small request, as the cases are increasing, take all the necessary precautions. And why not to play digital Holi this year? At least we will come out with some new innovation, some new startup. Somebody may have a startup on Holi also. Why not? Something new, we can have it over there. So best wishes from all of us, world over, to all our brothers and sisters. This is our chamber, International Chamber for Service Industry. And right from the beginning, from 1994, we wish to share with you in a very humble way that Parvasi Bharti Divas came in 2003. But we started having the confluence of the non-resident Indians right from 1994 onwards. And during this entire pandemic, we focused on like doctors, nurses, paramedical people. They all are great warriors, let me tell you, our teachers, our educators, our mentors, our counselors, our directors, our vice chancellors. Everybody is a warrior in their own way. And don't forget, most important, technocrats. Because if they don't give you the bandwidth, if they don't give you the right signal, you may keep struggling. Your voice won't reach. So that's something is very important. And what I learned in a very humble way, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. That means the whole world is one family. We all are brothers, sisters of same God. Heartiest congratulations to every Indian, because the new education policy being given on 29th of July, the game changer, once it gets implemented, right from the 6th class, you're going to have coding, you're going to have vocational skills, competencies, capabilities. My God, 10 days backless school. How can I be? If God meets me once and he asks me, what do you want? I would tell me, can you make me a child to go to kindergarten once again? Nothing like school education, early education, no bindas, no worries. As you grow in age, you learn, I don't want to tell that, marketing, because Professor Vivek Shankar is here, he'll feel bad. Education to be relevant to our day-to-day life. That's something is very important. Whatsoever we are learning, If it is not practical, it is not relevant to my day-to-day life, then why I'm learning? Why I'm picking up that skill? Youth empowerment is very important. Teachers empowerment is more important. And then I'm proud to share with all of you that in 1994, when the chamber came into existence, for the first time in India, we brought the finishing lab and the finishing school for service industry. That is your etiquettes, manners, gesture, body language, communication skill, personality, articulation, critical thinking, analytical thinking, decision making, all that. Here is a very, very powerful woman. We have got a great, great respect for her. Earlier, when she was taking care of commerce and industry, that is the time we have submitted a lot of projects for services sector to the ministry. Then thereafter, she moved to one of the another important ministry, that is defense ministry. And she had the vision at that point of time. Why not to bring 1,000 scenic schools in India? She was thinking all the time, taking that pattern. And now she has announced 100 scenic schools. Great. Now, pillar number 4 is very important, reinvigorating human capital, 6 pillars. Here are the key reforms in education, ladies and gentlemen. 9.5% is the budget increase, and proud to share with the entire universe, Dr. Nirmaljeet Singh Kalsi, 1984 batch in Indian Administrative Service. He is taking over the chairperson for the National Council for Vocational Education and Training, one of the most important position, one of the most responsible position, where all the skills, everything whatsoever is happening with the youth in this country, that is to be taken care of by National Council for Vocational Education and Training. Proud to share, we brought 31 different days program on setting up 100 scenic schools in India. And that's a game changer. When you talk about 100 scenic schools, you can well imagine 100 scenic schools coming in India. And this is for the first time. What all will happen with those scenic schools, what all changes would be there, something very, very interesting, which I wish to share with all of you. So our chamber had the deliberation, almost 31 separate programs, that what should be the PPP mode as far as the new scenic schools. 33 scenic schools are already existing. 100 more scenic schools are coming up now in India. Optimum utilization of the technology and social media, particularly during pandemic. Our chamber empowering youth, empowering teachers, and this is the new triangle which we had drawn from our side. This is not for the family planning I'm talking about. This triangle is altogether different. It's a holistic education. Now, what exactly is holistic education? Ladies and gentlemen, this evening on the YouTube, the first reward and the award goes to Madam Mamta Chauhan, 1,000 rupees, because she is the first to log in on the YouTube this particular program this evening. So Mamta ji, be ready to receive 1,000 rupees. कौन बनेगा करोड़पति का प्रोग्राम? कभी पहला क्वेश्चन 1,000 रुपीज का होता है अमिताभ बच्चन जी का, तो हमारा भी 1,000 रुपए का है. We give you 1,000 rupees today, being the first person to join, and then of course others are joining. So holistic education, when we are talking about, this triangle shows education, skills, and entrepreneurship, women empowerment, wellness, technology, waste management, and teachers and youth empowerment, IQ to EQ, that is the journey. And then of course, water management as well. Our chamber has deeply thought of that we would be focusing the entire energy towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. This is what we were talking about. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, incubation center, finishing lab, and utter tinkering lab. All that has to come up in India in a very big way. Innovation, research. Our chamber has got almost 12-hour beaming, and these are 29 programs of ours. You can well imagine Sunday is totally filled from morning 9:30 a.m. onwards. So whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Let's get together. Let's be together and let's work out. And ladies and gentlemen, join me in extending a very hearty and a very warm welcome to Madam Akshaya Srinivasan ji and Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji, building global excellence in Indian education. So, ladies and gentlemen, hearty welcome to both the dignitaries and a pleasure to have them joining us from United States this morning. Both of them are joining, and we are proud to have them with us. And I would request now Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji to take on the proceedings further, and we start our morning with our universal prayer for all of us.
Good Suprabhatam and Namaste Gulshanji. I'll start with a shlokam from Kalidasa's Kumara Sambhavam. Vagartaviva Samprapto Vagartaf Pratipattaye Jagataf Pitaro Vande Parvati Parameshwaro. And basically, Kalidasa says that just like the word and the meaning cannot be separate, the Shiva Shakti or the Parvati and Parameshwara can never be separate. The reason I say that is this month is supposed to be very special. Last month, Magh Mas is very special because you do the Shiv Puja and Mahashivratri. This month is the Phalgun Mas, and the Phalgun Purnima coincides with the Uttar Phalguni Nakshatram, is supposed to be the day we do Holi. In Tamil Nadu, this is celebrated as Panguni Uttram, and it is said to be that the lot of celestial marriages happened on this day. So in Mylapore in Chennai, there is a famous temple, Kapali temple, and they celebrate the marriage of Shiva and Shakti called Panguni Uttram. That's called Peruviya, the big temple, big festival. Similarly, it's special for Kartik Bhagwan, Hayappan, and all that. So it's a very holy time of the year. And this is a time the spring is in the air. From next month will be the Ugadi, and then the Chaitra Mas starts, and then Ramnavami comes, the Vasant Navratri comes. So we are getting into the spring mode. No wonder we celebrate the Vasantotsav with Holi. Now, why is that relevant? We talk about innovation, entrepreneurship. All that is where the green shoots start to emerge, right? And so it's important when we talk of color, innovation and all that. Holi kind of captured that spirit in a way. I was just trying to make a connection. Now, coming to the speaker of today, I've looked at her record, and I hope she doesn't take offense when I use the word. Her resume is rather a very colorful one, fitting with the theme of Holi. She's worked in many sectors. Akshaya ji is primarily comes from Chennai, but she is a second generation educator because her mother is also a teacher. So that makes us very proud because she's coming and talking on this seminar theme of education, and she's also married to a professor. So she's kind of horizontal vertical integration in terms of education. So that is important. Her primary background is mass communication, and she has worked in the media industry. And then she moved to the US, and she has pursued a PhD. And of course, and there are very personal stories. I think she could tell her how it's a lot of challenge doing PhD, and also so she has wonderful stories about that as well. And then after that, she's now at the Mays Business School, very prestigious business school as part of the great Texas A&M University, one of the oldest universities in US and in Texas. And it's a triple grant, land grant, space grant, and I think air grant, all the grants. It's a very great university. In fact, for those of us who follow the green revolution, the rice varieties came from Texas University. So all that. So there's a connection for Texas A&M University with India. So and a lot of students of Indian origin, a lot of professors of Indian origin have been very successful there. It's a great place. It's not very far from where I live, and I hold their institution in high respect. So today, the reason I requested we should have Akshaya ji is she's teaching courses, and we talk about it, making education relevant. Her courses are not the most esoteric or ivory tower courses, but rather very practical. She teaches consulting, and she teaches analytics, and the program especially the marketing program at A&M is a very powerful one, not only from a research standpoint, but in terms of all the courses that they are teaching. Very practical, very hands-on, very analytical. So, and I saw her coursework, and I had seen a couple of podcasts, and I just kind of what we did, we doing good in marketing. I just did some cold calling, and she's been very kind enough to agree to come and give us, share her words of wisdom. So without much ado, I request Akshaya ji, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma and Dr. Natarajan for that kind introduction. Howdy, everybody. My name is Akshaya Srinivasan. I am a professor in the Department of Marketing. I'm with the Mays Business School in in Texas with the Texas A&M University. I've been here for the last 5 years, and prior to my stint at A&M, I was a doctoral student at Penn State University. My background is mainly in media and communications. My undergrad and master's from India, from Chennai, and a PhD in mass communications from Penn State. And one of the reasons that I decided to kind of pursue a career in marketing was primarily the kind of opportunities that it presented in terms of how well the courses were structured, and its kind of intersection with making things more practically relevant to students. I know we keep emphasizing this idea of practical knowledge and how that empowers students, and again, we will be talking about that in detail in regards with the national education policy reform that was brought up not too long ago. But one of the things that really kind of sparked my curiosity and my interest in the Mays Business School and Texas A&M in general is that it's very hands-on. We have partnerships with the leaders in the industry, all the way from NASA. I mean, Dr. Natarajan just mentioned our association. We are a land grant institution, so we are traditionally an agricultural school. In fact, the A and the M in Texas A&M stands for agricultural and mechanical. So we are traditionally an ag school. And then we are also a sea and a space grant institution. So this gives us a very unique advantage in terms of access to resources. For instance, the program that A&M is pursuing right now with NASA, or kind of the partnership, we're actually working on the Mars mission and facilitating. There's a lot of background research that's going on in the engineering program. With the business school, we are looking at NASA in terms of partnership in the more branding and marketing and management space. So there are different kind of strengths that each academic program brings to the table. And for us to 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 empower students to promote knowledge and wealth, we are looking at it from a holistic perspective. I mean, it's one thing for students to sit in your classes and take notes and learn the theory and the mechanisms behind it, and it's also at the same time critical for them to understand how this knowledge is going to be applied in an outside world, in an actual industrial setting, and how that's going to be useful for students to kind of um, proceed and move onward with their life. So that's something that really kind of excites me and keeps me awake in the night. And I constantly think of ways in which we can kind of connect all of that and bring that to our classrooms every single day. Again, I work mainly in the area of analytics and consulting. I teach the upper level consulting class. Again, with consulting, our job eventually is to place students in tier one, tier two consulting companies. So whether it's PwC, EY, Deloitte, or Accenture, Trinergy, even the smaller ones, our goal is to make students relevant to what is happening in the industry. So whenever we work with syllabus and course structures, we start from the end and we look at what the industry really requires. And then we go ahead setting syllabus and um, other materials based on what is the requirement in the industry right now. And that's something that I see very well kind of echoed in the National Education Policy Bill, where they're looking at more practical hands-on skills. And of course, we're going to go into that in just a bit. But that's kind of a brief overview in terms of what I do at the business school. And again, I'd be happy to field questions or answer anything that y'all might have on these topics that I just spoke to you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for the introductory part. There are two things which we would like to understand from you.
Mhm.
How do you bring the practical part of it? Let's take an example because we would like to understand if a child is undergoing a particular program, and we say generally that institutions, whatever material they are providing, I'm taking an example for India,
Mhm.
and industry says that look, these children those are coming to us, they're not directly acceptable, absorbable. Even the children those are coming from the engineering institute, management institutes, and other places, so they say We got to skill them, we got to upskill them, we got to give the desirable skill to them, then only we can put them. So initially they take a couple of months to get or gel with the industry where they are coming. So what exactly strategy your organization is adopting? How are you grooming them? How are you training them? What exactly is the methodology which is so different or which is so practical? Can we give some practical part of it, ma'am?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
to kind of reference to the example that you gave with engineering in India, every year we produce millions and millions of engineers in
Yes.
India. Not too long ago, there was a large summit of all the engineering school deans. These were mostly attended by the top tier institutions, the IITs and the BITS, and all the RECs and the BHUs in India kind of came together and they addressed this problem. And the consensus that was reached was that, despite the fact that we're producing millions and millions of engineers, only 20% of them are industry ready, right? So we are actually doing a disservice in terms of, training these students. Unlike that approach, the approach that I see here in the US is the emphasis on practical hands-on knowledge. For instance, we require our students to actually attend internships with prestigious institutions, whether these are engineering institutions, whether or even the business school, for instance. Their summer between their junior year and their senior year, which is the transition between the third year and the fourth year, the summer, students are required to attend a solid internship with a 4 week, 6 week internship with a company where potentially they might join in the future, so that they understand how the company works. They work on actual projects, they work with clients, and they're able to kind of have this running start, because once they graduate, they don't have to kind of go back and kind of reread those skills. They've already worked with the firm. They already know how the firm operates. They know some of the pros and cons of what is happening in the industry. They know the language inside out, and they're able to have this running start. The other thing that we emphasize quite heavily in our program and coursework is that whenever we work in the class, we work with a client. And I can give you an example. For instance, in one of the branding classes that I teach, every semester we actually have a client for whom the students solve a practical problem. So this year, this spring semester and last fall semester, for the last 2 semesters, my students have been working with a very big hospital chain in the Texas area. My students are helping them with branding and marketing. And when the people from this hospital approached us to work on this project, they were looking at us as though, these were little kids, these were 18-year-old, 19-year-old students who are trying to put ideas together. But what they witnessed at the end of the semester was a presentation which was nothing short of a professional presentation that they might hear from their own colleagues. And to their credit, they actually took advice from the student groups and switched some of their marketing and branding campaigns. These are multi-million dollar institutions that take suggestion from a 19-year-old student in my class. And this is just one example of one classroom that's worked on a hands-on project for a client. Similarly, if you look at the engineering program, we work quite extensively with auto manufacturers. Our proximity to Houston and the whole oil and gas sector, students go work with companies like Exxon and Chevron, and they learn. I mean, if it's an engineering program, they actually learn how a drill works, what really happens in the deep sea exploration phase. And then they come back and they design problems. Now, I'm not talking about masters or PhD. This happens at the undergraduate level when students are still quite young and they're in that mode to understand and absorb. So this emphasis on practical knowledge, on hands-on knowledge, is something that most US institutions kind of practice. And I wish, when I was growing up in India in my undergrad and master's program, we did have an emphasis. My university thankfully did emphasize a lot on that, but I wish we had more opportunities so that we would have that industry academia connect that would propel our students onward.
So I just take on over here. Thank you very much for your most valuable practical inputs.
Mhm.
At what stage, the academia and the corporate or the industry interface should start?
I mean, quite honestly, the students here start working or start interning with firms. When I say firms, we're talking about Tesla and Apple or Google or Facebook when they're in their ninth grade or their freshman year of their high school. So this industry integration happens at that level. For instance, students who join the business school or any program in the US, they need to present what we call as a statement of purpose as to why they wish to join your academic institution, right? So in that statement of purpose, they oftentimes talk to us about what work that they've done in the past as a high school student. And for us, that signals seriousness, that signals commitment. And you want to work with these students, you want to work with these students that are highly skilled and highly talented. And as the world becomes more competitive, we want those students. Students are starting to train. In fact, the other day we were having this discussion with a colleague friend of mine from one of the big tech names here in the US, and they said they'd recently admitted a seventh grade student to work on an engineering project. This is a seventh standard student that's working on an engineering project, a middle school student. So age is never the cap or the determinant. It is the student's intent, it is the student's enthusiasm. So if you have an idea, here is an opportunity, here's a company that's willing to work with you. And for me, quite honestly, it can start as early as middle school when students are a little more independent and keep continuing onward, because with high school students kind of more hands-on and they're slightly more mature, and then kind of taking it onward to your 4-year undergraduate program, students should absolutely have 1 year to the ground to know what is happening in the industry so that they're able to position themselves in a very competitive way.
Okay. Now, thank you. Now,
Sir,
something.
Gulshanji, if I may add a little.
Sure, please.
Actually, partly, I think where I have seen all that is, being in the US for a while, is there are a lot of science fairs, robotics competitions early on in the middle school where that serve as pathways for people to identify students with this level of talent. So I think that's also crucial, is how do you create pathways? Because it's not easy to walk into a school and pick out 10 people who may have that potential, but you need to have these mechanisms or pathways like a hackathon or a science fair. And there's a lot of emphasis. People take it very seriously. Again, I don't want to comment on India because I've been out of India for so long, but I remember I did doing science fair, or my cousins doing it. It was basically the parents who used to spend a lot of time. They were stressed out and they had to somehow get it to go. Here, the science fair is where the students are let to do their own creative thinking. And partly, it also goes back to the garage culture that is prevalent. A lot of people here like to do things hands-on. So that doesn't even mean anything. So a lot of people stack up their garage with their hobbies. That could be pottery or woodwork or carpentry, and they spend a lot of passion. I mean, that passion, if kids can show at a young age, that translates also into going into a career. I've seen many people, they love automobile, they work on it from the very small age, and then transition into an auto design program. So that's another thing we probably need, a mechanism to tap. It could mean the same thing for music or the same thing for sculpture. I mean, there's all these competitions help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, what I would like to share over here is that at present, the New Education Policy 2020, which is on the way to implementation, this particular policy, right from the 6th class onward, gives a coding to the children. Besides that, children will have vocationals and their skills and couple of other things right from 6th class onward. Also in the New Education Policy, they have given there should be a 10 days bagless visit to school or coming to school or visiting school, where children will go to a particular factory or a corporate sector, corporate house, and that is 10 days in one semester, each semester. So as it is, we are in the right direction of the implementation of the New Education Policy. Now there's a little challenge which I wish to share here with you, that post-pandemic, some of the parents cannot financially afford and they're planning their children drop out. Some figures which have come from UNESCO, almost 30 million children will be dropping out post-pandemic as far as situation in schools, institutions, and all that is concerned. For sure, 11 million girls are dropping out after this, which is very alarming. And I feel very bad about it because at least they could have done their basic education, more awareness. They could have done much better in life and all that. There is a video which has come, which is called Nightmare for Universities. This video is by a company in America. It is by Edutainment. The company is Edutainment. And that guy has given that Google, Netflix, Bank of America, McDonald's, and a couple of other companies have already decided they do not need children anymore. Those are graduates or postgraduates and all. They say we will teach them at our own and we will give them some certification at our own and they can join at early stage post pandemic. And that all is going to have a complete shift and complete change in the education ecosystem. So how do you look at the scenario if a corporate has to be involved and if the children have to take internship and all? Do you think in realistic terms that formal degree will hold any relevance in coming times?
I mean, absolutely, absolutely. For instance, one of the conundrum that most US institutions face right now is this idea of relevancy, because we have companies like Google, for instance, that's launching its own diploma programs.
Yes.
They are not a university, so they cannot grant degrees. But what they're doing is they are picking a specific topic, let's say machine learning or artificial intelligence, and they put students through intensive coding and training programs, and all of this can be done simultaneously. So while you're attending, let's say, Texas A&M, you can take a 1-year programming certification from Google, and that makes you industry relevant. At the same time, you still need to understand the basics, the theory, right? Which is why academic institutions like A&M and the several other universities that we have in the United States or even across the world will still be relevant because we teach you the fundamentals. And then for specialization, you go and learn from these degree granting or these really specific industries outside where you can specialize in an area that you wish to choose. So for me, with students getting more hands-on experience, the more the better. That's the truth. And if it starts as early as schools, I'd actually welcome it. I mean, we're all originally from India, right? Now let me ask you this question quite frankly. How many students that are matriculating from our schools in India know how to change tires? How many students matriculating from India, if they have a flat tire, if they're driving somewhere, if there's a puncture, if they have a flat tire, how many students can confidently switch it out? Or even how many adults, right? I mean, we are all engineers, we are all doctors, but we can't solve a simple problem as a flat tire. How many students who are matriculating from India can, to put two pieces of wood together and do a simple carpentry job? We are so focused in India in terms of providing academic knowledge that we fail to introduce students to the practical problems around them. So these internships, whether this is an internship at a small carpentry firm, right, that puts things together, or a large industry, let's say an industry like Otis, the elevator company that puts metal things together in Bangalore, you're still exposing students to this idea of working with sensory feel, touch, and all of that. And for me, that practical education has a lot more importance, and I'm very glad that the new educational policy is kind of stressing on that aspect, even the coding aspect that you mentioned. I mean, the whole world is moving towards a data driven industry, right? Whether even, let's say you're in the agricultural sector, you still need a coding platform like Reuters Market Light, RML, to understand what are the optimal ways in which you can coordinate your supplies with the mandi. What are the best, which is the best mandi around you in your vicinity that's going to get you the best price for your produce. We're talking about the most backward, kind of less technologically sophisticated industry like agriculture, which is still adopting a lot of technology and machine learning and AI. And you see schools like, IITs, IIT Palkad, for instance, is doing some cutting edge work in this area, integrating data sciences and agriculture. So the whole world, and I can give you more examples for, other fields that are going to be data driven. So the fact that the Indian government is introducing coding in sixth grade as an essential skill is a very big and a very important move that they're making. And I absolutely in 100% agreement to the kind of implementation that this new bill has put together.
Wonderful. Ma'am, one more thing I would like to check up with you. The world had moved from agriculture sector to industrial era, that is manufacturing sector. And from manufacturing sector, we had moved to services sector. But this particular corona has once again taught us that basic agriculture is more important than anything else on this planet, because you need basic food, basic health, that will always remain. If you eat healthy, you remain healthy. That is something very important. As you mentioned, very interesting, and I jotted down. A&M is, when you talked about agricultural school, when you mentioned about it, is there any study available, or has it ever been thought of that which particular segment of the industry is starting maximum startups, basically in United States?
I mean,
Is there any study on that?
there are several studies. For instance,
Uh,
tech is the fastest in
no,
terms of,
no, 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 ma'am. Segment I'm talking about, whether more startups are in agriculture or in manufacturing or in services.
It cuts across. So
Okay.
there are enough and more number of startups, but most of these startups, whether they are in services, agriculture, industrial, or more of the tech sector, there is a data component to it.
Huh.
So you can be you can be a startup in agriculture, right?
Yeah.
You can be a startup in services. Let's say
Hmm.
you want to start up a company like musafir.com, that travel website. There is still a technology component in that. You want to start up you want to have a little startup on producing high yield variety of a certain type of crop, like Vivek Shankar Natarajan and I, we're both from the southern part of the country, right? uh, Coffee is a cash crop, and it's a pretty big deal for several farmers. um, Texas A&M, for instance, has done extensive research in coffee. So, for instance, there was this insect or this bug, I don't know the specifics of it, that was actually eating into the coffee beans, and that was degrading the quality of the beans, right? A&M researchers went and found a cure. Now, this cure is now monitored, and the coffee texture, quality, everything is monitored using a software. So
Okay.
you're looking at, an agricultural problem that's being handled through technology. So in many ways, the coffee industry was saved by Texas A&M researchers, and because of the research that was done, the high yielding variety of coffee is now, grown in plenty in South American countries, where the world source most of its coffee beans from. That's just one example. So if you look at data and application, it can literally cut across different industries. So when you're looking at startups, it's absolutely critical that you have some kind of technical knowledge. You can have a startup in whichever field you want, but you absolutely need the technical component in order to be successful.
I'm very happy that you have brought this point. All other subjects are theoretical. You need technical know-how. It's very, very important. Unless you don't have IT component, you're all knowledge. One more question, and thereafter I'll pass on to Professor Vivek Shankarji. Ma'am, you come from the background of the journalism, mass communication, and you have spent more time on media entertainment. I'm little selfish because the soil I belong to, over here, children have got only two dreams: either to go to Canada after disposing of everything, even if they hang outside with the aircraft fan, they would like to go from here, and they would like to reach over there. And they think that the Prime Minister of Canada is waiting with his grown-up daughter, that son-in-law, you have come, please take over Canada and look after my property, look after Canada, look after everything. It's only after a few days when they are at the gas station filling petrol, they come to know that what I was from the landlord, what I have become. So anyway, I don't want to discuss on that part. Coming to second part, they say if I can't go to Canada, if I can't go abroad, then I would like to be a part of the film industry. And in film industry, they are not interested to get into any other segment: sound, light, creative, backdrop, costumes, designing. No, 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 no. I want to be Dharmendra. I want to be just on the front of the camera. People should see, and Hema Malini should come, and I should be right over there. And then that is the way I start my career, Bahubali. Right. So now, looking at that scenario, what would you like to tell, and how do you see the media entertainment industry? Kindly give some. I'm sorry, I'm changing the topic, but I thought, let me get back to your roots, because you spend more time in media entertainment industry. I'm very keen, because Professor Vivek Shankarji gave me the handle and I got the idea. Please kindly give some justice on that. Maybe I'm in a position to be a little loyal to my own soil. Please do something on that.
Right. I mean, quite honestly, this is a fascinating question because I've never once thought about getting in front of the camera. I mean, I did in terms of news and anchoring with the NDTV group, but that's all I wanted to do. I never wanted to get into movies or anything. But uh, there is so much, that the media industry can offer, right? In terms of uh, the again technical specifications. If you look at a movie, for instance, there are hundreds and hundreds of people that work behind the scenes in order to make the scenes in front come alive. I have friends who work for companies like Disney, for instance. I have a friend who went to school with me in India, in Chennai. She is in San Francisco right now and she works for Disney. She is a software coder for some of their movies, and she's a color correction artist. So her job is simply to look at the cartoons, the movies that Disney makes, and she has to make sure the color palette is uniform. When you look at her work from a third person's perspective or from an outside view, it looks very small. But for that movie to be successful, this friend's role is absolutely critical. So there are, with technical sophistications, I mean, you mentioned the movie Bahubali, the number of technicians that worked on that film. I mean, the movie star Rana, he has his own VFX studios in Hyderabad, and they do extensive work in terms of digitization. Even more traditional movie stars like Rajinikanth, for instance, his daughter has a huge digital media video production unit in Chennai. His younger daughter has like a huge unit in Chennai, and they're doing that because they clearly see a need, right? I mean, yes, it is fancy to stay in front of the camera and be recognized and known, but on the other hand, there are so many cooler, interesting things. I mean, Rahman was never in front of the camera. He got 2 Oscars. The person who did the sound editing for Slumdog, the audio engineer from Kerala, he was never in front of the camera, but he got the most prestigious award that the film industry has to offer. So there are so many technical jobs that are there that actually kind of require, that the media industry can offer. So it's beyond just standing in front of the camera and clicking pictures. There are other jobs that are available. And for me, I am a firm believer that once you understand the basics of the technology, you will actually be able to command the field, no matter which field or which area that you're working in.
Dr.
Great. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Because,
Can I follow?
yes, now all yours. And
No, I want to follow into 2 questions. Yeah, go ahead, Doctor.
I just want to convey thanks to her, because I wanted that somehow she should support me like my little child, that yes, technology is the only one which is going to play important role, very important role in future. Today, the edtech companies, I'm doing a research on more than 100 companies, the edtech platforms. What is coming in education? What is coming in skills? What is coming in competencies? What all new is coming in education? I'm working on that. And every day I learn some new guy irrespective of the age, irrespective of the background, irrespective of the school, the child is coming out with a marvelous idea. And I'm a firm believer there are thousands and millions of people, those have got ideas on this planet, but they miss the boat because they do not implement those ideas. They
Absolutely.
miss the boat, and they can do wonders on these planets. With these words, all yours, Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajanji.
No, actually, I will go back to Akshayaji's comment about filmmaking. But there are two people whom their names may or may not resonate with you, Gulshanji, but definitely these are two people I respect a lot. And they are not the people who are always in front of the camera. They're people who wrote the script. One of them is Cho Ramaswamy, who was like he's one of the people who predicted the rise of Modi ji even before he became prime minister. Cho was a journalist, was an advocate, was a playwright, a dramatist, a religious philosopher. I mean, he could wear many hats. Cho Ramaswamy. He used to run the Tughlaq magazine, which is now run by Gurumurthy ji. So that's a person whom I respect a lot. The other one is somebody who's more into the humor brand, which is Crazy Mohan. And so Akshayaji, these are two people. They were not in front of camera. They made their magic behind the camera. So I guess the point I'm to try to drive home is that creativity, what you're seeing in front of the camera, is actually coming because some 1,000 people behind the camera make that happen. That's the point. A good script, a good dialogue, good direction. And so anybody who's from Tamil Nadu, we are passionate about our drama and our film industry and Carnatic music and dance in that respect. So the background matters as much as the foreground. So just an observation. So Akshayaji, the main thing I wanted to ask was, are there some ground rules based on your experience on doing all these client engagements? What are the do's or what are the don'ts? What are the pitfalls? Because I'll tell you, it's not easy. Even teaching out of a textbook is hard. Now you have to bring in a live client. It is not easy. You have to do a lot of background. What people you'll see is that 1 hour of PowerPoint presentation, like a movie. But you got to be the script writer. You got to be the director. You got to be the producer. You have to recruit the clients. There's a lot of back end work. Can you talk about that?
Regarding engagements with a client, there is, yes, you're right. There is a lot of back end work that happens, and the students don't get to see all of that. We are fortunate with our presence. I mean, Texas A&M, we have one of the largest alumni base in the world, and we have students who are so loyal to the institution that they want to come back. There's a famous saying, all you need is one Aggie in a company and they'll bring more Aggies on board. So for us, we're kind of fortunate in sitting in that intersection where, we have access to resources, we have access. So if I want to talk to the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, Texas A&M, for instance, produces the most number of CEOs in the Fortune 500 industry. So that's just a fact. And the Aggie network is so vast that I can literally pick up the phone and call the Old Students Association, and they're going to put me in touch with somebody in the C-suite. So I'm working directly with somebody in the C-suite, and then they direct the projects through their different departments, and then we work with them, again, to solve a very specific problem. When we choose a client engagement, we are trying to be relevant. We are trying to work on a problem that's relevant to both the client and the students that are learning it. I mean, on one hand, the client should not treat us like free labor. And on the other hand, the student shouldn't think, what, I just have to do some project in order to get some grade. It needs to work both ways, that, there should be relevancy for the client. This person is actually solving a practical problem. And on the student's part, they are looking forward to learning these skills that are going to be applicable throughout their lives. Academic career, professional career, you name it, it's going to come with them for the rest of their life. So there needs to be that marriage on both ends, and it needs to come kind of very coherently in many ways. Have we always had success? No, we've had to deal with clients in the past where, they're asked. So there's a whole process that happens. There's a vetting process. We talk to them, we understand the project. And all of this starts 3 months before the class is even in the books, right? So for instance, if I have to teach a fall class right now, and if I need to bring a client for September 2021, I start talking in April 2021. So there's a long 3 to 6 month period, introducing the client, meeting with the client several times, going back and forth, kind of, it's pretty much like working on an MOU, right? Till both parties sign off on it, there's no going forward. So we try to bring in a new client each year because, again, we want to be relevant. We want to be, for our students to work on something that is important. We want them to solve a problem, a need that the client is actually facing. So there's a lot of back end work. So it starts with, phone calls to your alumni network. It starts with phone calls to your personal clients. So I have a lot of friends in the industry. So I pick up the phone and I start reaching out saying, hey, you know what, I'm offering this course. Would you be interested to participate? And then it kind of starts with that. And then we look into problems, specific problems, because we work with a research question in many ways. And then we kind of start formulating, okay, how can that be broken down into gradable components? Because at the end of the day, we need students to submit, little chunks of work every, very periodic way, so that at the end of the semester, there is some kind of cumulative knowledge that's acquired. So can we break the project down into 4 parts or 5 parts? And each part will be delivered at the end of the month. Are they working in groups? Are these individual projects? We go through all of these deliberations. And then we have client check-ins. So it's not like, you talk to the client at the start of the semester and then they go tata bye-bye and you don't see them again. They keep periodically checking up with you. And if they don't, you pick up the phone and say, hey, you know what, we've finished 1/4 of the project, or we've finished 2/4 of the project. We have, this chunk left. Do you like a mid-semester check-in with us? We do that. And then, of course, towards the end of the semester, the clients do sit in on the students' final project and they evaluate the students. So for the students, they know that, they're not just, putting something together and just throwing it out there and leaving. They know that each of these submissions are being graded, and it comes back and it affects their grades, their final grades on their final exam in some way or the other. So they're very serious on their part. And they know that if they do it right, they might even get a job from the client that they're working with. So with that in the mind, they're constantly putting their best foot forward.
So what you're saying is basically there is a payoff for the students, and so that keeps the skin in the game. Mm-hmm. And I assume, for the industry, it's partly the alumni social ties, but partly it is a chance, but maybe that they can get some good insights, because sometimes when you have outside perspectives, that gives you a good insights.
Right.
And Dr. Sharma, I just want to kind of go back to what you said about the nightmare of the universities. And a lot of people have predicted a lot of things. Whenever a new innovation happens, people would say jobs will be disappearing. But this is typically true with the Schumpeterian model. I mean, there is a creative destruction, but it also creates new jobs. So whether the university will die or whether the university will re-emerge, and I think I'm a believer in this Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and there's always a Shiva and then there's always a Brahma. So there's always a creative destruction. Schumpeter talks about it in some sense. So maybe all this pandemic and the digital revolution will change the paradigm of the university. Maybe they will go back to be reinvigorating. But one of the things that we can say is the certifications and all that kind of programs, they're like fast food. University is like the full balanced meal, and you cannot substitute one for the other. They can complement. And the alumni ties that you're talking about, like I know the A&M is legendary for alumni ties. I mean, they will wear a ring, and if you spot anybody in the crowd wearing that ring, that's it. You are belonging to that tribe. That kind of things will not be able to be replicated by online education. That is where the power of the university is. Because what brings me and Professor you together, or Professor Diman, is we all have the Chandigarh connection. That is something you cannot get in an online context, period. And as the world becomes more online, I think the social ties will start to matter. This is just my hypothesis, and I hope. But partly it's a vested interest, because my job is tied to the university. I don't want it to disappear, at least for a while, until I get my pension or 403 intact. That is the thing. Now, so that's one observation. I wanted to kind of go back to Akshayaji's comment on, is there anything else that have you kind of kept a repository of all the projects you have done so far, like a knowledge bank? Have you produced some research out of it? In other words, going back and looking at the metadata or doing some case studies, have you done something in that space, or have the clients, or have you gone and checked back with the client, like a relationship marketing? How have they benefited, and and kind of reuse them after 2 or 3 years to see if you can do some new tweaks to the consulting you did. I mean, have you done that consulting engagement in a relationship way, or is it just one-off?
Absolutely. No. It's absolutely, because we are ultimately looking to build relationships. So it's not like, I'm doing a project with you and I'm done with you. I don't want to talk to you ever again. We do, periodically go back, even if we're not really working with them. This whole idea of, maintaining your Rolodex, maintaining your relationships with them is absolutely crucial, because you never know, maybe you have a student who has not worked with this client, but they want to go work for them full time, right? So in that case, you should be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, you know what? We worked with you 2 years ago. I have this really brilliant student right now who would be a perfect fit for the job that you have posted. And then you try to plug your student in. So uh, relationship marketing absolutely is important, and it's crucial. So we do keep in touch. And again, as I mentioned earlier, most of these contacts are through our alumni network. So even if I'm not keeping in touch, somebody from the old student association unit is constantly kind of reaching out to them, making sure, but if they have some unmet client needs, if we can help them solve. It might not be for my class, it might be for another program in the university. But as an entity, A&M is still kind of engaging with these clients, and that kind of brings a lot of value back to the table and to the process in general.
Okay, one more specific kind of a question. Have you worked with not-for-profits or communities rather than just for-profits?
I mean, my colleagues have, but then the courses that I teach, I'm working in the area where I teach people how to make more money. I don't think that really goes well with some of the other principles. But there are, classes that are offered in the Mays Business School. For instance, we actually have a 3-credit course which is called Corporate Social Responsibility. So students in the consulting track learn how to make money, and they also learn how to make money through my 3-credit course, and then they learn how to be socially aware through the corporate social responsibility class, which they're required to take. So I don't teach, but there are courses, yes.
Okay, I want to piggyback on one more thing. I know we've chatted at it before as well, and this is Professor Sharma, Dr. Sharma's pet thing, technology. You use stimulations on PR, public relations, and critical. I think was it critical thinking or crisis simulations, and I think that is one simulation, and you also had talk about analytics certifications. That's the next point I want to talk about. That's the next question. Can you elaborate on both of these, especially the crisis simulation? That Dr. Sharma can relate to it much better. If you can give an overview of what you do, I think that's something we all need to know. Very useful tool.
Right. I mean, if you look at a firm, any corporate or any brand for that matter, you're not always going to have pleasant experiences. All right. You are going to have problems. Some problems are more physical. For instance, you run a heavy industry. Let's say you have a heavy industry. One of your worker met with an accident and this person died. This is a physical, harm, that's bodily harm that's caused in the industry. And sometimes the brand goes through a lot of online hate and negativity, and the brand is in crisis. I help in the second aspect, where I help brands kind of recover through this whole crisis simulation module that we run in our classrooms. So students are actually part of this 90-minute simulation. They sit in the simulation, they're representing a brand, and we give them a scenario saying, you are the CEO or you're the marketing manager for this company. Something happened to that company. All right. Maybe you had one of your employees, or senior employees, said something racist. Maybe one of your senior employees got caught in some kind of a money laundering scandal or something. And now, as the CEO of of the company, you're supposed to save the brand. What are you going to do? What kind of press releases are you going to write? What kind of brand representations are you going to make? How are you going to stand in front of the camera? Because these students won't recognize the importance of these skills when they're 18, but as they grow older and older, when they are in their 40s and 50s, and they're working in the senior level capacity, they will be dealing with, online corporate nightmares. So how do you put them to rest? There are right ways and there are not so right ways. So the best way to, empower a student and make the student to learn is through hands-on experience. You put them in a simulation, you ask them to react, and as they are reacting, you tweak scenarios and you change things. Because when you work in an actual environment, in the real world, it's not like the problem is going to wait for you to come and handle. As you're handling the problem, it's going to keep switching and keep, evolving as it grows. So similarly, when we do the simulation, we give them an initial problem, and in 10 minutes into the simulation, we give them an additional, component that complicates the problem slightly more. They have to take care of that, and 20 minutes into it, we add another component that complicates the problem even more. So it keeps building on, and it kind of, builds on. And by the end of the 90-minute simulation, when the students walk away from the from the simulation, they actually feel like, oh my god, I was put in a high pressure environment, and this is how I reacted, and this is how I, reacted, and this is how I solved the problem. And then we go back and reanalyze, saying, okay, let's look at what group one has done compared to what group two has done. Group one, you did A, B, C, D, and E. Good, but maybe you should have done these other two things as well. Group two, you did E, F, G, H, I, but you forgot about the A, B, and C component. Why did you not do that? What was the ideation behind it? And we let the students kind of explain and go through the whole process. So it's fun, it's learning, and it's very hands-on.
I hope that kind of makes you happy, because it's all about technology. And आपको एक और idea मिल गया आज कि crisis कैसे solve करें. And I mean, these are good. I mean, this is state of the art. I've kind of read about it. That's why I asked this question. Gulshan, I'd like to give the stage back to you if there are any questions, and then we can kind of head towards a landing. And then I think then we can say, what do we do in the future? That's a thing.
Thank you very much from my side. It was perfectly, because the basic inputs, I'm very clear about it, what we have to do, how we have to move, what is to be done over here. These were the basic inputs. What message would you like to give to the youth of India, particularly when the new education policy 2020 is getting implemented? And thereafter, then we can wind up with a prayer from Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajanji. What, Akshay ma'am, you would like to tell children?
As far as the advice from my end is concerned, don't wait for opportunities to come to you. Go out and explore. I mean, and classrooms are not the only place where you're going to find opportunities. You can find the opportunity from your chai wala down the road, right? He might have a need. See if there's a business need that he has to solve. I mean, this need might actually solve a larger problem, not just for that chai wala, but the entire chai ecosystem, supply chain ecosystem, right? Talk to people, keep your eyes and ears open to problems that are happening in the world right now. There are so many problems. Are you very good with your skills in biology and plant zoology, or any of those sciences? Great. If yes, go start a kitchen garden in your backyard. Try to grow some plants. See, if you can get into this whole organic planting, vegetation lifestyle. Amazing. If you are more if you have engineering skills, if you can think in terms of coding and processing, see if you can find simple things and start. Because most of these big companies right now, the Apple and the Googles and the Teslas of the world, they all started by identifying a small problem and a small need. So you never know when you will become the next Google of the world, because you were able to identify a problem and you designed a solution starting from a problem. So keep your eyes and ears open for opportunities. And when somebody comes to your door and knocks on your door with an opportunity, don't say no. Jump on it with both hands, and you never know where it's going to take you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
I got two questions just before I wind up. Akshay, having grown up in India, and you did your PhD in a very good school, which is Penn State, and then you teach at A&M again. How has your Indian background helped you as an educator? And it's about teaching and research. I wanted to ask that question. I missed that. So that was one thing specifically I wanted. The other thing is, there are always these two rules, research and teaching. And of course, how do you see they kind of complementing? That's a personal thing I would like you to talk about. If you can, then probably we should be able to finish off.
I mean, your backgrounds definitely help you, whether you're from India or from China or from anywhere in the world, wherever you're from, your background absolutely plays a critical role. Or even if you're from here, if you grow up in this country, your background absolutely helps you because you are more sensitive to things around you and you kind of learn and you adapt and you apply those values and skills that you've learned to everything that you do going onward. So absolutely, my background kind of being exposed to a very academic setting did help me kind of propel onward in terms of going for a PhD. It was nothing out of my comfort zone. I found it absolutely pleasurable to work on my doctoral program. And regarding the second part of your question, where you talk about reaching and research and teaching, sorry, coming together, there's absolute kind of convergence because what you want to teach in class should be governed by something that you study, something that you observe, something that you learn. So absolutely, there's convergence in both, and I would strongly kind of urge academicians in India who are into teaching to have again a very problem-solving aptitude mind, because when you solve problems, you're not just making somebody's life better, but you're actually putting a very important skill into your students' head that's going to stay with them for the rest of their lives.
One, I think this was a question I was waiting. I know somewhere, I think one of the podcasts you said you were very clear what you did not want to be, or something to that effect, that you did not want to be an engineer, and that you could have took this path, and now we are doing analytics, which kind of is not engineering, but going into that sense. So how did that feel that at a young age you took a stance? How did that help you in your future? Because I mean, one of the things that I think partly here is, I remember we are all it's a much more rigmarole system here. I don't know, the new education policy is trying to change it, but the default setting is engineering. It's hard to change the default setting, but then you kind of took that plunge and said, I don't want to be an engineer. Not, I don't know why you said that. So could you talk a little bit about how that shaped your life journey in a way?
I mean, all of us go through our own rationales. We look at our own skill sets, what you're good at and what you're not good at. So the minute you identify what you're really good at, you should follow that route. What you're not good at, you should not stay run away from it, but rather do less of it, right? And let the experts do it. So I knew for a fact that I was not uh, I didn't have a mechanical brain in the sense that I couldn't, but I was very visual and very creative. And I was a problem solver. And for me, my skills are, I know my skills. I'm very good with communications. I'm very good with, articulating my thoughts, which is why my background is in communications. I work in a marketing school. All of these have, come together. And for me, this new education policy bill kind of will allow students to get out of this whole rat race and start thinking for themselves, where you're looking at skills that you're really good at and kind of working on that and developing on that as you move onward in your life.
Okay, maybe just one follow-up. How did you identify your strengths? I mean, I mean, that's what I'm trying to look for, because if that students can figure out at a young age, that will save them a lot of grief down the road, is what I'm thinking. So how did you figure that out? What made you identify that, and what made you have that persuasiveness? What gave you that confidence that, hey, I will take this? Because at 20, the age that we are all doing it, it's a lot of risk, and to go against not exactly against your parents' logic, but to stand up for your convictions. That's what I'm trying to get at. And we want our students, more of our students, to get that level of critical thinking. That's really what I'm trying to get out of this question.
I mean, you should first start with looking at yourself inwardly. For instance, do you speak well? Do you problem solve? If your cycle broke down, do you put it together? Which means you have an engineering mind. If your TV broke down and you're looking at, what, I can actually fix this TV. I don't need to call an electrician. I don't need to call somebody from outside. Then you have that engineering skill in your mind. You have that innate, need to fix that. Maybe you're very good at conversing. When you were little, you were really good in front of the TV. You love to sing and dance and act, and you were into arts. Look at what you've done as a kid and how these skills have come back to help you, and then it'll take you onward. That's at least what I did. I looked inward at what I was really good at, and I looked inward and looked at what I was not good at, and I decided to pursue the route that I was really good at. So here I am.
Thank you. And we wish you more continued success. And we also hope, again, this is something I did not ask Dr. Sharma, but he's kind of given me the stage. So please do stay involved if you can with ICSI. We definitely want to do more, especially more research on the diaspora. It could be on the bench strength will always help if we have people your caliber kind of associate. And again, the idea is to see how we can harness the power of the Indian diaspora for the betterment of the education system in India. That's a mission Dr. Sharma is committed to, as you can see, 24/7. He's now, I don't know when he sleeps. So it's always a waking moment. And all of these webinars are a step in that direction. Again, remember, we are doing our best, as the Bhagavad Gita says, do your work and then leave it to the rest. And so each of these webinars is a step in the direction to help the education policy in India, to help the ecosystem in India really produce more success, not from just the standpoint of materialism, but also from the standpoint of empowered individuals. As they say, ya vidya sa vimuktaye, that true education is the one that liberates, that makes you a free thinker. And so with that, thank you for spending your time. Happy Holi again in conclusion. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Gulshan ji, thank you very much. Akshay ji, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, love to both of you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
You started with Howdy, and Howdy has kind of become very famous in India because of the brand Howdy Modi. So that's an again, so it's become, thank you for that. Howdy again. Take care, Dr. Sharma. Take care, Akshay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Akshay Srinivasan ji and Professor Vivek Shankar Natarajan ji. Thank you very much for sparing your time. It was indeed a great pleasure. Look forward meeting you in near future. Stay fine, stay fit, enjoy yourself. Thank you. Wish you all a